I went out this morning at early dawn to walk my dog. Saw the morning star, Venus, shining in the east, and in the west, the full Passover moon setting. And I thought about those women going to the tomb, maybe seeing that same moon, and the surprise that was waiting for them there. And then I thought about you. What a surprise it is to see you all. I had no idea what to expect. After 2 years of pandemic and shutting down and reopening, sort of, and shutting down again and sort of reopening. And maybe you didn't know what to expect either. Maybe you were a little anxious. Do I wear a mask? Do I not wear a mask? Will it be safe? Maybe you've never been here before and you just don't know what this place is about and who's here and what they think and whether they'll be nice to you or make you do all kinds of strange rituals that you don't completely understand. Feel kind of awkward thinking you might not cross yourself when you're supposed to or stand up when you're supposed to sit down. But today is a day of expectations being not only unfulfilled, but completely shattered, turned upside down. Women who go to a tomb to embalm a corpse find that he is not there. Only messengers of God who tell them, "Why do you look for the living among the dead?" Peter, summoned to the home of a Gentile centurion, someone who by the law he is not permitted even to associate, and yet sent by a dream from God to go and tell his story to this man and to his family. And what a story it is. Not one they were expecting at all. A story about how the God of Israel is now ready to open for all the people of the world his forgiveness, his redemption, his eternal life. Or those exiles in Babylon who heard the message from the prophet Isaiah. People without land who heard that a day is coming when you will no longer plant and tend vineyards from which you shall not harvest the fruit. You shall no longer labor to build houses which you will never afford to buy. I'm going to transform the world so that the violent and the innocent will feed together in peace. And we might hear these stories and think to ourselves, well, isn't that nice? That's the sort of thing they say in church. These idle tales, such as women tell, about empty tombs, and about grace and peace between nations. And when we think about how such a world might come to be, there's just no escaping that it's going to require judgment. Now, for a lot of people, that's a bad word, especially in church, because they think about moralistic finger wagging, or some great potentate with a long beard sitting on his heavenly throne, casting miserable, wailing sinners into a pit of fire. And we all have our judgments. And that is the judgment that is turned on its head today. Our judgments about the kind of people who stand in the way of such tales coming true. We all know who ought to be judged in this world to make it the way it's supposed to be. Just ask us. And we all know how we ourselves are incapable of bringing such a world to pass. Just ask us. Our judgments hold us bound. And isn't it good news, my friends, to hear that we are not required to judge the world. We are not required even to judge ourselves. Our judgments are broken today. We are released from the bondage of our own judgments of what is possible for others, and what is possible for ourselves. When Peter tells Cornelius the centurion that God has appointed one to be the judge of the living and the dead, that's good news for us, because Peter thought he knew who Jesus was. And Peter thought, well, he not only thought, he acted. He acted rashly. He blurted things out without really considering what he was saying. He, when asked by Jesus, "Who do you say I am?" he said, "You are the Messiah, the Christ." When invited by Jesus to get out of the boat and walk across the water of the Sea of Galilee, Peter gave it a shot. When Jesus told his disciples at the Last Supper, "One of you will betray me into the hands of sinners," Peter said, "Lord, I am going to go with you to your death." Well, Good on you, Peter, but you were wrong. You were wrong about what it means to be God's Messiah. You were wrong about being able to walk on water. No surprise there. You were wrong about having the faith and the courage and the unimaginable hope to go to your death with Jesus on the cross. You couldn't do it. You chickened out. You said you didn't know him 3 times. You ran away into the darkness. You wouldn't even go and visit him at his grave, because you were too scared. You left that to the women. And yet it is that Jesus who is Peter's judge. That Jesus who forgave him, who looked on him with a love that he could never have given himself. That same Jesus who made his way through the villages of Galilee, welcoming the rich and the poor and the sick, who reached out and touched the lepers and healed them. The one who said to tax collectors and sinners, "Come, feast with me at the table of God's kingdom, where you have a place." That same Jesus who walked through the gates of Jerusalem, hearing the crowds acclaim him as the Son of David, as the Messiah, as God's chosen, knowing that he was on his way to the cross. That Jesus who stood mute as the soldiers stripped him and put a crown of thorns on his head and mocked him and spat on him and scourged him and nailed him to a tree. That Jesus lives because God has appointed him to judge you and me. No one else. No one else gets to judge you but him.